Claudio Villa, an astrological portrait of Ciro Discepolo. The news left everyone in disbelief. Claudio Villa, introducing his second daughter, Aurora, to journalists, declared that he will retire from the world of music within a year. There was no need for a Folgore split or a straitjacket. He says he wants to abdicate sponte voluntate. Naturally, as astrologers, we don't believe it at all. And how could we? First, because the sun never sets on the empire of a successful Capricorn, and second, because the Capricorn in question is someone who has always said things like, "I'm the best," "Sinatra and I are on par," "young singers have no balls," and so on. Every appearance is a show, a refrain of attacks on those who wish him ill, a performance that risks turning at any moment into a bodybuilding show, with Villa compressed into a gladiator-like pose, flexing his muscles. Believe us, a man like this doesn't retire. Perhaps he'll refocus his professional career. Perhaps he'll change his style or launch new ventures. But as for him to throw in the towel, it seems more likely that oil will be found under the Capitoline Hill than that Claudio Villa sings only for his little girls and his wife Patrizia, who's also almost a child. This exceptional character, so similar in some ways to Cassius Clay, is so closely related to Narciso that he will find it difficult to resist the pleasure of holding press conferences to talk about himself, his exceptional talents, and the plots that seek to eclipse him. He lives in the myth of his natural sea, which is actually at the level of a Magnum 44. His recurring dream sees him undergoing a biological mutation that, by raising his voice a few more decibels, allows him to shatter the windows of an entire neighborhood. With a high note, according to the leitmotif, whoever has the biggest one is number one. Freud's shadow smiles from the sidelines. No, Claudio Villa will continue to modulate the medium, short and very short waves with the notes of Granada. He will still sing his Marina, 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 as if it were the most normal thing in the world. He will bring us Binario again, as if it were a premiere. His self-confidence is disarming. His display of absolute certainties is disorienting. His presumption is so great that it robs anyone in front of him of any polemical energy. His paradoxes are too disproportionate to be confronted. Behind all this, clearly it should have been clear immediately, looms a giant of clay, a champion of overcompensated inferiority complexes. Claudio Villa was born in Rome, in Trastevere to be precise, on January 1st, 1926 at 8:30 p.m. He is therefore a Capricorn with Leo ascendant and the moon in Leo. This sign is very strong in his horoscope also because the sun at the time of his birth was in the fifth sector of the sky, corresponding precisely to it. This explains the narcissism, the presumption, the arrogance of his character. This, combined with Mercury in Sagittarius, helps us understand how he seems to have a total lack of self-criticism, how he manages to take himself seriously when giving speeches. It seems he doesn't even consider that his rhetoric borders on theatricality. Leone also owes his acting skills to his values, for example, the way he cries on television when he talks about his mother, wiping tears from his eyes with the back of his hand, tears that, judging by the force he uses, should be as big as cherries. Claudio Pica, nicknamed Villa, had a difficult and painful childhood, during which he had to work from an early age, first selling mineral water illegally, and then apprenticing in a paper mill. This first combative encounter with life, trying to conquer a place in the sun, left a mark on him, ultimately giving him a conflicted view of existence, a sort of minor paranoia. The moon in the 12th house and Neptune ruling the ascendant. Journalists persecute him. RAI hates him. The music industry wants to see him on his knees. Hence his fighting spirit, his daily commitment, his constant vigilance, his bullying attitude, his proud and polemical air. As a child, he suffered from serious problems with logorrhea, and since then he has never stopped talking. He seems like a raging, unstoppable river. Capricorn is certainly the key to all this. Capricorn in short stature. This combination has always produced major complexes about conquering the world. Added to this is Neptune on the ascendant, square to Saturn, and sesquisquare to the Sun, which clearly indicates underlying psychological problems, lack of self-confidence, obsessions, and depressive states. Rather than subside, these problems have grown over the years, whether due to a natural decline in energy and physical fitness, or the artistic outdatedness of his style. It's not that his songs are no longer popular, as they're still classics. However, the pressure exerted by the music of new rising stars in the international singing scene makes him and the critical observer feel the need for renewal. No one has ever doubted that he possesses a wonderful voice. And let it be said incidentally, we are great admirers of his singing, and that some of his vocal interpretations are still masterpieces is beyond dispute. But what makes Villa questionable is the shift from his private human problem to a public one. People want him merely as a singer, not as the standard bearer of his personal crusade, contradicting everyone. With Saturn and Mars in the 4th house, a difficult second half of his life was to be expected, a tormented, non-physiological decline. And this will be the problem he will most seriously engage with in the future, the true test of his life, the crux of his maturity. Growing old is extremely difficult, as is relinquishing power. This is where great men stand out. And for the purebred Roman singer, it's even more challenging with Mars so splendidly placed in Sagittarius, a symbol of great exuberance and physical strength. Of the romanticized and rosy-tinted reports of him in the magazines that show him in the most celebratory situations, perhaps the only completely authentic ones, are those relating to his legendary status as an athlete, a sportsman, a centaur. Mars in Sagittarius, well placed, easily justifies the 800,000 kilometers he's ridden on his motorbike 50 times around the world. Speaking of motorbikes, it's a must advise him to put them aside for a couple of years until Uranus has completed its transit of conjunction with his natal Mars. According to a classic interpretation of the passage, the same could also mean emotional discontent or a real estate problem. However, the primary perceived risk is more prevalent during a period of change, such as that announced by the individual. Change means disrupting the previous equilibrium, unleashing internal forces of resistance, and eliciting those unconscious manifestations designed to authoritatively draw conscious attention to the most important issue at hand. Indeed, his detachment from power, no longer being the little king, could be traumatic if it were to happen. Behind him are 3,000 recorded songs and over 22 million records sold. The operation he should succeed in consists in allowing the two other dominants of the horoscope to live as peacefully as possible, Saturn at the bottom of the sky and Venus at the descendant in Aquarius. The former should represent a sort of forced exile, an escape from the public eye for a long dive into the most intimate of private lives. But here, as mentioned, we have many doubts about the chances of success. The other dominant aspect, which has played a key role in his artistic success until now, could more easily shift to allow him to leverage the emotional component within him that has had very little time to manifest itself. All things considered, we'd like to hope he continues to be so unsympathetically genuine and tenaciously convinced of his role. We'd like to continue seeing him as he did in the first episode, but perhaps it was the second, of Bontaloro, when Costanzo asked him, "Is it true that in that particular place, during that performance, the audience booed you loudly, telling you to go home?" And Claudio Villa, after a moment of dismay where you could read his face as if he wanted to sink into the ground, says, "Yes, it's true. But you see, it was all a ploy, it was all staged." And by trying to convince others, he begins to convince himself as well. The guys had been paid to boo me, but afterwards they came to my dressing room to explain everything to me, to apologize, to tell me that they were my fans, that I'm the best, that I'm the greatest.